Hey everybody, Brian Trout coming to you from Mossy Creek Fly Fishing with your fly fishing forecast. The date for today is Monday, the 24th of February. So we had a really cold week last week, had some snow, had a lot of wind, and this week is looking much improved for not only your comfort outside, but the fishing in general. So let's get right into it. Spring is right around the corner and there's a lot of things to be looking forward to and excited about. If you are looking to head out this week and trout fish, water levels are really good. We've had quite a few winter storms, quite a few rainstorms over the last couple of months, and that's really helped to just keep the water table in a good spot. We've had some high water events and we've calmed down from that now. So whether you're heading up into the Blue Ridge into Shenandoah National Park or heading west in Alleghenies, your mountain trout streams are going to be in really good shape water level wise. They're going to be cold. I guarantee there's a lot of ice on roots and rocks and things that are hanging over the water this morning. We had a couple of nights in the single digits over the last few days. So water temps are still gonna be cool, but every day this week it's supposed to just get a little bit warmer. And at least on the valley floor here, they're saying some of the afternoons this week are gonna be in the 60s, which is gonna feel like summertime compared to what we've had this winter. So take advantage of that, of the weather for the next 3, 4, 5 days because it's looking really good. Here's some bugs that you want to be looking for, early season bugs. It's not unusual to get some of our first mayfly hatches the last week in February. Obviously, if we had a much milder February, we'd be seeing and talking about them a little bit more, but just be on the lookout. They can pop. And even though they may not be in great numbers, the very first substantial food at all that shows up for these brook trout, they're going to take advantage of, okay? It's a pretty harsh environment they live in up there, and this winter's been particularly harsh. And so some of those first early season mayflies you're going to want to look for are going to be your quills, okay? So your red quill, your quill Gordons, and then also the blue dun. All these mayflies are small, which is kind of how the spring season is going to go. A lot of our mayflies are going to start off pretty tiny, kind of like blue-winged olives. They're going to be size 20s. A big mayfly this time of year would be like a size 18. So you want to be on the lookout for these bugs hatching up out of the water. You want to be on the lookout for them, particularly in the warmest 1 or 2 hours of the day, which is going to be, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock hour. That's when you're going to have the sun's going to hit the pools for longer. The nymphs are going to start to get active. They're going to start emerging, and you're going to have a better shot at catching a fish further up in the water column or even on the surface. All right, so don't go down with the ship. Don't go out there and just blindly dry fly fish the whole day. If you give it a little bit of time and nothing's happening, kick back to your nymphs, cover the water well, and maybe after a couple more hours, try back on the surface again and see if anybody's willing to come up. But those are going to be your major mayflies, the red quills, the blue duns, and the quill Gordons. And as always, blue-winged olives, they're always around on certain days, but all year long anyway. For caddis, the very first caddis you're going to see hatching on the streams in Virginia are going to be the granums, which is like the little black caddis, also small, dark body, dark wing. You're looking at like size 18 for those. So for those of you who tie, for those of you who just want to kind of make sure you've got the right ammunition as you head out on the stream, those are your first bugs that you want to be looking for. And those could continue well into March depending on what kind of weather we get, all right? So nymph fishing is probably still going to be your most productive way to catch these trout, even with warmer weather coming. But as you know, there's a lag between warm air and warmer water, okay? It's going to take several warm days to start to move the needle on these high mountain streams. Night times are still quite cold, particularly up at 3,000 feet and above. So that's what you need to work on when you're brook trout fishing. But as far as water levels go, where to go, everything's in play, okay? Typically these bug hatches start earlier in the park to the east, particularly on the east slope streams, okay? So Conway, Rapidan, Rose, Thornton, Hughes, Doyles, Mormons, all those streams typically get a little bit earlier bug activity than the ones on this side of the mountain, and particularly to our west. So that's what you want to look for. Small streamers always in play, even for brook trout. I know we talk about this a lot on these reports, but brook trout are ravenous creatures, and they absolutely will eat each other. They'll eat minnows, they'll eat darters, they'll eat dace, they'll eat crayfish. So don't be afraid, if the water levels are right, to throw a large meal in there as well. See if you can't crack that code of catching that 12+ inch brook trout in Virginia, which can be a challenge sometimes. So they're out there. You just got to be in the right spot with the right food. Moving downhill a little bit into some of our bigger trout streams, our larger freestone streams, and also our stocked water. March, which is this coming weekend, is a really big stocking month for the state of Virginia. They will try to go through and hit all of the delayed harvest streams again, at least one more time, sometimes twice, before the end of that season wraps up. So just kind of monitor the state's website for that, the Department of Game. We'll keep you up to date too if you need to know specific streams and kind of where they are in their stockings. As always, if the state's stocking your favorite delayed harvest, whether it be North River delayed harvest or Back Creek delayed harvest, Peddler, Passage Creek, all of these streams are going to have fish that have been in them for months and months that are very much keyed in on the natural food. They have to be, otherwise they wouldn't have made it through the winter since October. So they're going to be keyed in on your stonefly nymphs and some of the mayfly nymphs that are on the bottom of the stream. If they do a fresh stocking, you're going to have fish that want to eat almost anything, especially colorful things. So stockfish love colorful flies, brightly colored flies. They love streamers. They love egg patterns. They love worm patterns, things like that. And then slowly but surely, they will get conditioned. And after they've been harassed a few times with those types of patterns, we'll grow leery of them and begin keying in on the more natural stuff. So that's just something to kind of keep in the back of your head if you're fishing these streams. A lot of people say, oh, what are they eating or what's going on? Well, a lot of it has to do with how it's managed, all right? If it's managed trout water, you have to factor in how long have they been in there and how many they've put in, and that will go a long way to figuring out what kind of day you're gonna have. So keep an eye on those websites for that. Also, some food for thought. We talk a lot in the fall about spawning fish, and we talk about brown trout spawn, and we definitely talk about brook trout spawn. Ways to avoid that, ways to fish ahead of it, ways to leave them alone when they're doing that. But we don't have a lot of wild rainbow trout water in the state, but we do have a decent amount, and places like the Jackson tailwater, and there's some wild rainbows on some of the streams around here in the Shenandoah Valley. They're going to be spring spawners, typically March, okay? So that's something you just kind of want to be aware of and keep an eye on. The other thing that happens around here in March is we get the fall fish start spawning, and a lot of these streams have a lot of fall fish in them. They coexist in a lot of places, particularly down here on the valley floor. So there's going to be a lot of egg in the water over the next month or so. So egg patterns usually do quite well in Virginia in March. They can do well 12 months out of the year, but March makes a lot of sense. There's gonna be a lot of free floating protein. The freest protein in the world is egg, and fish love it. So kind of make sure you've got your boxes prepared for that. Spring Creek's down here in the valley floor. A little bit more modified water temperatures, but you still want to play the game. You still want to fish warmer hours of the day. You still want to stay subsurface for quite a while. They're not going to have those big prolific early mayfly hatches. You're not going to go to a place like Mossy and see big quill hatches or things like that just because they lack the freestone. There's a lot more silt and sediment in them. All right, so some of our better hatches on the Spring Creeks are actually going to come after the mountain streams, further into spring. All right, so what you want to take advantage of on those streams right now is the fact that the vegetation has died back quite a bit. You can work a streamer easily. All the vegetation on the banks has died down and dried up. And so it's just easy to approach those streams right now, easier to get a fly in, easier to not get hung up easily. So sculpin patterns, darters and dace patterns, creolexes, work those along the bottom. Be careful with your pace. You don't want to overwork your fly, especially on cold days or snow melt days, things like that. So, but the Spring Creek's been fishing pretty well and have great water flow also. Our larger freestone streams, our larger rivers, our warm water rivers, They've calmed down quite a bit. They were pretty big over the last couple of weeks. So for those of you who want to go out there and try and catch cold weather largemouth or smallmouth, or do some musky fishing, you're in pretty good shape as far as water levels go. They're just tough fish to catch this time of year. You usually have to have a watercraft. You need to cover water. You need to know their winter lies. You need to be able to get down deep. In some instances, that even means fishing a sink tip line or using a lot of extra split shot with heavy flies to make sure you're down deep. Those 2 or 3 warmer hours of the day that I mentioned for the trout, that's going to be even more critical for the smallmouth and the largemouth. They care for cold water even less than the trout do. So temper your pace, get down deep, cover, make sure you're out of miles of river, that you're in the place that they're located, all right? If you don't know where those places are, they're typically, generally, some of the bigger, slower, deeper stretches of the river, places where they don't have to work too hard or burn too many calories to make it through the winter. Even if the water were to drop 2 or 3 feet or go up 2 or 3 feet, those sheltered lies are where they're gonna be very much stacked in, all right? So we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks, at least for the next 5 days. Nice warm break, relatively dry. Get out there, really enjoy it. Winter is gonna have 1 or 2 more punches, I'm sure, before it's all said and done. So anyway, we are ramped up here at the shop. We have the F3T coming up here in the next week or so. We've got open house coming up in April. That's gonna be awesome. You guys are gonna love it. And lots of deals and sales going on at the shop. So if you're excited to get out there over the next week or 2 weeks and you need some places to go, need some advice, please come by and see us or give us a call or email us, and we will help you get on the water and enjoy the coming spring. All right, I will see you all next week.